Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing the top 10 Kickstarters of the month. And before I get started, I have a few Kickstarters of my own, and then of course have some friend Kickstarters, and then we'll jump into the top 10. So first up is Mob Princess. This is about a young woman who finds out her dad is part of the mob and then has to take over the mob because he ends up being murdered. We also have Ever Afterverse, which is our New York Comic Con edition connected cover where you can only get it on Kickstarter outside of New York Comic Con. It's a connected cover of our books Nightmare in Wonderland and Beast in Snow. It's a crossover connected cover, so if you like fairy tale mature stories, go check that out. So those are my Kickstarters. Now moving on to some friend Kickstarters. So we have Tell Them of Us, The Stories We Leave Behind. This is a post-apocalyptic anthology ran by some great people who have done many anthologies, especially Brent Fisher has done a lot of queer anthologies, so go check that out if you're a fan of short stories and a collection of stories. Moving on to Wurst Mayhem issue 1 through 2. Ryan and John do such a beautiful job at packaging. Honestly, I've never seen packages come as beautifully as John and Ryan does, and something I also love about their dynamic is that they're true life friends. They get to work with each other to create the final product as a colorist and artist and writer. And I love when you get to see real life friends making comics with each other. You get to see the joy of that comic come to life. So if you're into D&D, medieval books, go check that one out. Moving on to Miskatonic High. So this is a jumping on point for Miskatonic High, a long running Kickstarter series. So if you enjoy Cthulhu, you enjoy YA storytelling, this is definitely the book for you to choose. And then moving on to the last friend Kickstarter, which is Tart issue 16. Speaking of long running titles, if you like strong female characters, time travel, this is one to pick up. Love the artwork for this one, and I love the thumbnail for this as well. It's actually part of our thumbnail for this video because I just really love the artwork here. So go check out Tart. Again, long-running series. I love when we get to see that for Kickstarter, especially because, you know, you see a lot of miniseries on the platform. So when you get to see a book at up to issue 16, I think that's something very special for indie comics and Kickstarter as a whole. Now moving into number 10, Ronda Rousey and AWA presents Expecting the Unexpected. Exactly what it sounds like. Ronda Rousey is joining the graphic novel space, and it has to do with a pregnant woman, and right now she's pregnant as well, who is fighting some bad guys. So, I just think this is a really cool way to bring people onto the platform. Also just a really fun action series with a twist where we get the pregnancy twist. So that is number 10 for me, with art done by Mike Deodato, who's, a great artist from Marvel, and moving on to doing a lot of stuff for AWA. Moving on to Cthulhu Invades Fairy Tales. We've had a couple of volumes of this, actually some Ringo-nominated volumes of this, and they're continuing their Cthulhu journey. I love seeing anthologies having multiple volumes and just seeing a different angle for them. And Cthulhu's a, very popular set of comics on Kickstarter, so to see another take on that and different types of creators trying to do their own spin on Cthulhu, I think is really cool. While also you have a lot of fairy tales on Kickstarter, so I think it's a really cool combination. Ran by Travis Gibb, who's done plenty of anthologies, including the Cthulhu series. So that is number 9 for me. Moving on to number 8, which is Kismet, an Arcane cocktail enthusiast story. Honestly, they sold me on the fact that it's the Bearer meets Sopranos. That's all I kind of needed to know. A culinary action series. Honestly, everything I love. I love culinary stories. That's most of the time I spend a lot of my free time watching cooking shows, and to have that in a comic is kind of all I've wanted. So this is my biased pick. So that is number 8 for me. Moving on to number 7, which is GAMEMASTERS, the complicated history of role-playing games. I am not into role-playing, and I think this is a really cool way for people to learn more about role-playing through a graphic and visual medium, and then also people who are fans of role-playing, which is plenty of people, to be like, wow, I really like that. I want to see how they explain that to other people. So I just think this is a really cool idea to get more people into role-playing, or people who already love role-playing to jump into this comic book. So that is number 7 for me. Moving on to number 6, which is Bounty issue 1. This is kind of a cartoony, feels like Saturday morning cartoon vibe, where we get to see a customer service rep who just dreams of being a bounty hunter. I find that to be such a fun premise. And again, the artwork I think fits really well for what they're trying to sell here. So that is number 6 for me. Moving on to number 5, which is Yuri comic magazine Galette English edition. I really like seeing official English editions coming out for Yuri and manga. And I've mentioned this in previous Kickstarter videos, but I like that Kickstarter is doing more stuff with manga and getting different audiences onto the platform. And honestly, a lot of these mangas I've personally read, and to see that they have short stories of those. One of my favorite books of all time, honestly, is Girlfriends, and that's a manga, that's a Yuri. And I love that we're going to see an extra story, an official English edition of that extra story. So that is number 5 for me. Moving on to number 4, which is kind of a comic. It's Zenescope Grimm Tales of Terror television series. So they're trying to pitch this television series and get enough money to make this show. Zenescope has done a few shows. I think one was on Sci-Fi with Van Helsing, so now we're seeing even more. So yeah, I think it's really cool that they're bringing this to Kickstarter, and hopefully we get to see some more shows from Zenescope. I think they have a wonderful well of titles over there. So this just felt like a really unique Kickstarter to me. Moving on to number 3, which is Love Spell issue 1. This has to do with college kids who want to get their crushes to like them, so they use a curse/spell to do so, and obviously that's not going to work out for them. That's just such a fun premise, and the artwork felt dark but also very slice of life. I think it just really worked for this one, and it just had a really cool premise. So giving that number 3. Moving on to number 2, When We Transform, a superhero tale of transition. This is ran by Tommy, who also has a really, really cool trans podcast that I was on a few months ago. And now she has her own comic. This is her debut. And it's a mix mash of Power Rangers and all that fun genre Power Rangers coming together to tell this trans story. And I'm a huge fan of that genre. So to see a queer angle on it, I thought was a really cool take. So as my number 2 pick. And moving on to number 1, which is Tillie Walden Spinning. I believe this is a new edition of the book. It's already come out at bookstores, I believe. And this is an autobiography of Tillie where she was a professional figure skater or a competitive figure skater. That's all she wanted to do in life, and then she has this new relationship and it changes her life, and you see how she tries to balance the figure skating and this new relationship. I love introspective stories like that, and I love art like this, and I love comics like this. I want to see more comics like this, especially on Kickstarter, so that's why it's my number 1 pick. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite Kickstarters of the month was, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.